I don't know about you, but I've always struggled with waiting. It doesn't feel holy, it doesn't feel spiritual. Most of the time, it just feels like silence. Like you've been praying, asking, hoping, and yet the answers never come. But maybe silence isn't silence. Maybe it's stillness. Maybe what feels like a delay isn't a detour at all. It's part of the shaping. The ache you feel in waiting, it's proof of something. It means your hope is still alive. We don't ache for things we've given up on. We only ache for what we still long for. And that ache, as uncomfortable as it is, means God hasn't let the flame go out. The world tells us to keep moving, hustle, grind, don't stop. But not everything that moves is progress, and not everything that stops is lost. Some things only grow when they're rooted. Some seasons require stillness. It's in the pause that clarity comes. If it's in the waiting that we learn to hear God's voice again. Faith doesn't always look like bold prayers or mountaintop moments. Most of the time it looks like showing up to another ordinary day. Washing dishes, going to work, answering emails. Faith in waiting says, even if nothing changes today, I'll still stay, I'll believe, I'll hope again. That isn't small, that's sacred. Maybe you need to hear this. You're not late. Whatever it is you've been waiting for, the right door, the right relationship, the right opportunity, He didn't miss it. God's timing doesn't work like ours. Delay is not denial. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's precision. Sometimes it's mercy. When I think about waiting, I think about the disciples in Acts chapter 1. Jesus had just been crucified, buried, and risen from the dead. For 40 days, He appeared to His followers, teaching about the kingdom of God. Imagine the emotions, hope, joy, expectancy, and then Jesus tells them in verse 4, don't leave Jerusalem, but wait for the gift my Father has promised. Wait. And everything they'd seen after resurrection power literally walked out of the grave. They wanted to run, they wanted to act, but Jesus said, wait. And so they did. They gathered in the upper room, they prayed, they waited. 10 days later, Pentecost came, the Spirit was poured out, and the church was born. Without the waiting, they wouldn't have been ready. They might have gone in their own strength, they might have missed God's timing. Waiting wasn't wasted, it was preparation. I think about my own life and times God has asked me to wait. For me, it was when I left the military and all I wanted to do was to come home, to be with family, to be present. But even after I came home, I found myself restless, chasing goals, chasing purpose, and still missing the very moments I once longed for. Here's what God showed me. The waiting wasn't punishment, it was shaping. He was teaching me life is not about racing ahead. It's about learning to be present. Learning to trust, learning to see Him in the slow seasons. So what do we hold on to in the meantime? Hope. Psalm 27:14 says, wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord. Notice it says it twice. Why? Because waiting is hard, because we need the reminder, because God knows that our hearts will grow restless. But hope reminds us, waiting doesn't mean forgotten. It means sometimes something is still unfolding. Maybe what God is building in the waiting is just as important as what you're waiting for. Maybe He's teaching you to love deeper, to trust stronger, to rest in Him more fully. So today, if you find yourself aching, restless, or wondering if you've missed it, remember this. Stillness is not waited. Trust grows in the quiet. Hope lives in the meantime, and God is not late. That's all for now. Love you guys.